What are the special provisions for the protection of scheduled tribes in the Indian Constitution? The Indian Constitution, through its special provisions, aims to safeguard the rights and welfare of scheduled tribes. These communities, who are traditionally marginalized and have distinct social, cultural, and economic practices, are provided with specific protections to ensure their integration into the mainstream society while preserving their unique identities. The Constitution provides these protections under various articles focusing on social justice, economic upliftment, and political representation. Let's examine the special provisions for the protection of scheduled tribes in India. First is the Article 46, Promotion of Educational and Economic Interests. Article 46 of the Constitution directs the state to promote the educational and economic interests of the scheduled tribes. It emphasizes that the state should make special provisions for the advancement of these communities. This article mandates that the government protect scheduled tribes from exploitation and ensure they have access to education, employment, and economic resources, allowing them to improve their living standards and contribute to national development. The state is expected to create an environment that addresses the specific needs of the scheduled tribes, such as providing scholarships, financial assistance, and other forms of support to improve literacy and economic independence. By encouraging education and skill development, this article aims to uplift the scheduled tribes who have historically faced social exclusion. Second is Articles 15.4 and 16.4. Reservation in education and employment. To address the historical injustices faced by scheduled tribes, the Constitution provides for reservation in educational institutions and government employment. Article 15.4 allows the state to make special provisions for the advancement of socially and educationally backward classes, including scheduled tribes. This provision enables scheduled tribes to access educational opportunities that would otherwise be unavailable to them due to their socio-economic status. Article 16.4 provides for reservations in government jobs for those who belong to backward classes, including scheduled tribes. These provisions ensure that scheduled tribes are represented in the public sector and have the opportunity to secure employment based on their qualifications despite their historical disadvantages. Third is Article 244, Administration of Scheduled Areas and Tribal Areas. Article 244 outlines the administration and control of scheduled areas and tribal areas in India. It provides that these areas should be governed according to laws made by the Parliament, but with special provisions tailored to the needs and aspirations of tribal populations. These areas primarily include regions where tribal populations are predominant. For example, the 5th schedule of the Constitution deals with the scheduled areas, which are primarily found in parts of states like Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and others. It empowers the President of India to declare areas as scheduled areas and mandates the creation of a tribal advisory council in states with significant tribal populations. These councils advise the government on policies related to the welfare of the tribes. Next is Article 371A to Article 371G. Special provisions for tribal regions. Several states with large tribal populations like Nagaland, Assam, and Mizoram have been provided with special provisions to safeguard the interests of scheduled tribes. These provisions allow for local governance systems and safeguards specific to tribal traditions. Article 371A gives special provisions for Nagaland, ensuring that no law affecting the religious or social practices of the Nagas or the ownership and transfer of land can be enacted without the consent of the state's legislative assembly. Article 371B makes special provisions for Assam, providing for the creation of a Tribal Areas Advisory Committee to advise the governor on issues concerning the administration of tribal areas in the state. Article 371C provides special provisions for the hill areas of Manipur, granting the state legislature the power to create autonomous district councils for the welfare of the tribal communities. These provisions empower state governments to take measures that ensure the protection and advancement of tribal communities while also preserving their cultural heritage and practices. Fifth one is provisions for forest rights. The Forest Rights Act of 2006 recognizes the rights of forest-dwelling scheduled tribes, providing them with land rights and access to forest resources. This law acknowledges that STs have historically lived in and around forests and depend on them for their livelihood. The Act empowers tribal communities to claim rights over land they have traditionally occupied, provided they can prove their residence and usage of the land. The Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act is a landmark law that has helped give tribal communities legal recognition over their traditional lands, aiming to prevent displacement and exploitation by non-tribal outsiders. Sixth one is protection against land alienation. Scheduled tribes often face exploitation in the form of land alienation, where non-tribal people encroach upon tribal land. To counter this, the Constitution provides special laws in states with large tribal populations to prevent the sale of tribal land to non-tribals. For example, several states have enacted laws that restrict the sale and transfer of land owned by scheduled tribes to non-tribal individuals, thus protecting the tribes from economic exploitation and preserving their land and livelihoods. Seventh one is the special provisions for tribal welfare in tribal areas. As mentioned, tribal areas have specific administrative systems designed to protect the interests of scheduled tribes. The Panchayat's Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, PISA Act of 1996, empowers local tribal communities to govern themselves by providing for self-rule. It gives them greater control over their natural resources and governance. This act mandates the establishment of Grama Sabhas, village councils in scheduled areas, allowing tribes to make decisions on issues such as land use, water resources, and the management of local forests in the alignment with their customs and traditions. By decentralizing governance, PISA ensures that tribes are not alienated from decisions that directly affect their lives. Eighth one is right to cultural and linguistic identity. The Indian Constitution recognizes the importance of maintaining the cultural and linguistic identity of scheduled tribes. Several provisions, including the recognition of tribal languages in the 8th schedule, ensure that tribal cultures are preserved. Tribes have the right to promote their languages, traditions, and way of life without interference from dominant societal norms. The state is also encouraged to support the development of tribal arts, crafts, and heritage through cultural initiatives and schemes that safeguard their indigenous practices. Ninth one is the role of the tribal advisory councils. In areas with significant tribal populations, tribal advisory councils are set up to advise the state government on issues that affect scheduled tribes. These councils play an advisory role in the formulation of policies related to land, forest rights, education, and employment of tribes. They also monitor the implementation of laws and ensure that they benefit the tribes as intended. The creation of the tribal advisory councils ensured that tribal voices are heard in decision making and that policies are tailored to their needs. To conclude, the Indian Constitution has laid down several provisions to protect and promote the interests of the scheduled tribes, ensuring that they receive adequate representation, protection from exploitation, and support for their socio-economic development. These special provisions are crucial for integrating tribal communities into the mainstream society while preserving their distinct cultural identities. The government continues to implement policies and laws designed to uplift these communities with an emphasis on inclusive growth and respect for tribal traditions. However, challenges remain in the full realization of these protections, requiring consistent government action and societal awareness to ensure that scheduled tribes in India can thrive in a just and equitable environment.